to all of you who are present today to my session. And today's subject is labor law and subject code MBA-401 for minor candidates and MBA-402 for major candidate. And today I will address on Trade Unions Act 1926 from this subject, and the unit number is 6, Trade Union Act 1926, and this is very important labor legislations, and whatever the discussions will be held today, you will follow my lecture minutely so that you can understand various provisions under Trade Union Act. Just I am going to my document so that everyone can go through this document, and after completions of this act, then I will provide you these study materials for your examination purpose. So the Trade Union Act, it came into force in India in the year 1926. And you are very much popular with this term V.V. Giri. He was the past president in our country, and in our industrial relations subject, V.V. Giri has contributed one particular approach, which is popularly known as Giri approach. Popularly known as Giri approach. And as per the definitions given by V.V. Giri, a trade union is such an organization which is created voluntarily on the basis of collective strength to secure the interest of the workers. This is not the legal definitions, but the definitions has been prescribed by V.V. Giri in a very simple language. So trade union is one kind of organization, right? So trade union is an organization and which is created voluntarily, not mandatorily. It is not necessary that in every business organization there must be the existence of trade union, because it is not mandatory. If workers think that they require an organization, then it may be created by them, right? So it is a voluntarily approach. It is not the mandatory approach. That's why you will notice that in some organization there is no trade union, or in some organizations there is trade union. In some organizations there are more than one trade union. So it varies from organization to organization. So trade union is an organization. This is a very vital. Why trade union is an organization, right? So when we are saying that trade union is an organization, so when we are trying to form an organization, then collection of people is required. Otherwise, organizations will not be created. So if we say that trade union is an organization, that means there are more than two people. More than two people. Right? And in the definition, it is also mentions it will be created on the basis of collective strength. That means individual employee or individual worker cannot form a trade union. There should be the collective effort. Collective opinion is required. If collective opinion is not there, if collective strength is not there, you cannot form a trade union. So when an organization is formed, then obviously the organization must have some specific purpose. Otherwise, organizations has no existence. If an organization is formed, then it must have some specific purpose. And what is the specific purpose? The specific purpose is to secure, to ensure the interest of the workers. So, trade unions' responsibility is to, trade unions' objective is to ensure the common interest of the workers. For the well-being of the workers, trade union is created. For the betterment of the workers, right? That's why trade union is formed. So no particular worker can form the trade union, but we can say that collective strength is required in order to form a trade union. Now the question is, what is the maximum strength which is required in order to form a trade union, right? Trade union. Maximum strength. So now I'm sharing these provisions. You follow me very minutely. Trade Unions Act 1926, it is clearly mentions that if you want to form a trade union in an organization, then minimum 7% is required. Minimum 7% is required. Right? So if collective opinion is there of 7%, then these 7% can apply for a registered trade union. Clear? So the registration is must. If you do not register your trade union, that means you do not enjoy any rights of the trade union. That's why registration is required. So when you are applying for registration, then the Trade Union Act says that you can also note down at least 10% or 100 of the workers, you may note down it, at least 10% or 100 of the workers employed in the establishment or industry, right, on the date of making of the application for registration. So registration is required. So when we are making an application for registration, then we should follow the rule which is mentioned under Trade Union Act. So what I'm saying, at least 10% or 100 of the workers, whichever is less. Just I'm giving you one example, then it will be clear to you. Initially what I told you, if you want to make an application for registration, then at least 7% should be there. Yes, this is also right. And side by side, another rule is that at least 10% or 100 of the workers, whichever is less. Just I'm giving you one example. Suppose in an organization, 50 employees are working. In an organization, 50 employees are working. Now, what is the 10% workforce? 10% workforce means 50 into 10%, that is 5. Clear? But the rule says that at least 7% is required. So 5 persons, 10% of 50, that is 5 persons, cannot apply because the minimum requirement is 7. Now, I hope it is clear. I am giving you another example. Suppose in an organization, 100 workers are working. So the 10% of 100 workers is 10. So they can apply because the 10 is more than 7. Then there is no problem. That's why precisely what we are trying to say, if you want to apply for registration, then at least 7 persons is required. Clear? So registration has to be done. Registration has to be done. Otherwise, the management or the top level management, they will not recognize you. Clear? So I'm just sharing a sentence with you. You may note down it. A registered trade union, you may note down it. A registered trade union may be recognized. I'm saying it again. A registered trade union may be recognized, but a recognized trade union has to be registered. Again, I'm saying a registered trade union may be recognized, but a recognized trade union has to be registered. Clear? Suppose you are a human resource manager in an organization. and you have given a recognition of a particular trade union, just for example, ABC trade union. You have given them recognition. And after that, we have come to know that that particular trade union ABC has not been registered. So whatever the actions you have taken as a HR manager, this action is not right action. Because being a HR manager, first you have to be ensured that when you are giving recognition to a particular trade union, then that particular trade union has to be registered. Otherwise, you cannot give them recognition. Clear? That's why registration is very, very important thing in Trade Union Act 1926. So, if the question may be like that, where the Trade Union Act is applicable, your specific answer is Trade Union Act is applicable only on registered trade unions. Again, I am saying Trade Union Act 1926, it is only applicable on registered trade unions. Clear? This is the applicability. You cannot apply this act anywhere. But this act, you can only apply on the registered trade union. And if a trade union is registered, then that trade union will enjoy certain rights, certain privileges. Otherwise, why you will do the registration? So if you do the registration, then consequently you can enjoy certain rights, certain privileges. Right? So what are the rights as well as what are the duties or liabilities? That has been also mentioned under this act. So why registration is required? Now, if you do registration, then you can enjoy certain rights and certain privileges. And if you are a registered trade union, then you must have certain duties that has to be discharged by that trade union. We have certain liabilities. You are enjoying some rights, side by side, you are also discharging some of the liabilities. Right? So now one by one, we are coming to the main discussion. So I hope this definition is clear to you. A trade union is such an organization which is created voluntarily on the basis of collective strength to secure the interest of the workers beginning. And as per the definitions given by Trade Union Act 1926, trade union means any combination, whether temporary combination or it might be the permanent combination. Right? It might be a temporary trade union, it might be a permanent trade union. A majority of the workers, if they think that this trade union should be dissolved, will be no longer in existence, then the trade union may be dissolved, trade union may be liquidated, trade union may be dissolved. So it is not like that, that if a trade union is formed, then this trade union will continue forever. It is not like that. It depends upon the opinion of the majority of the workers. So how the majority is calculated, that I will discuss later on. In which situation a trade union will be dissolved, right? So that's why in the definition it is written, trade union may be temporary or it may be permanent, and it is formed primarily for the purpose of regulating the relations. Why the trade union is formed? The purpose is to regulate the relation. So there is a close connection between trade union and the industrial relation. If you want to foster the industrial relations, if you want to make the relations very good, then the trade union can take positive role. So it is formed primarily for the purpose of regulating the relation between any combination between workmen and employers, or between workmen and workmen, or between employers and employers, right? So there will be three types of relations that will be regulated through the trade union. So it is not like that only the workers can form the trade union. Trade union may be formed by the employers also, but their union is known as association. Their union is known as association, right? So many associations are there in our country. Clear? Like as Confederations of Indian Industry, CII, Chamber of Commerce, Associations of Chamber of Commerce, FICCI. These are the examples of employers' union. It is not like that only the workers will form the trade union. Trade union may be formed by workers, trade union may be formed by the employers. So many management associations are there. So many employers associations are there. That's why in this act it is mentioned, it is formed primarily for the purpose of regulating the relations between workmen and employers, or between workmen and workmen, or between employers and employers, here, or for imposing. One is to regulate the relation, and other purpose is to impose restrictive conditions on the conduct of any trade or business. So if in an organization there is registered trade union, then they can impose certain restrictive conditions. Otherwise, what will happen? Otherwise, employers will do anything which may go against the workers, right? So employer may do anything if there are no restrictive conditions. So trade union basically tries to impose certain restrictive conditions on the whimsical action which may go against the workforce. Clear? So these definitions is the complete definition which is enshrined under the Trade Union Act 1926. So you will remember this definition. Trade union means any combination, whether temporary or permanent, formed primarily for the purpose of regulating the relations between workmen and employers, or between workmen and workmen, or between employers and employers, or for imposing restrictive conditions on the conduct of any trade or business, right? So trade unions are formed to protect and promote the interest of their members. Their primary function is to protect the interest of workers against discrimination and unfair labor practices. Otherwise, employers will do various unfair practices, unfair labor practices, or the employer can make various types of discrimination among the workers. So, trade union is formed so that discrimination can be minimized, so that we can avoid the unfair labor practices. So, if the questions may be like that, what are the basic objectives behind the formations of trade union? Then your answer is the basic purpose behind the formations of trade union is to protect the interest of workers, protect the interest of the workers community against discrimination made by the employer, as well as unfair labor practices done by the employer. That has to be restricted, that has to be checked, that has to be stopped. That's why trade union is formed. And what is the scope of the act? I have already discussed. This act provides for the registrations of trade union. If you do the registration, then you will be treated as registered trade union, and the act applies to registered trade union. I have already told you where this act will be applied. This act is applied only on registered trade union. Clear? So what is the coverage of this act? This act specifies the mode of their registration. The act was passed to regulate conditions governing the registrations of a trade union, how the trade union will be registered, what are the conditions which is required for the registration purpose, that has been mentioned in this act. Another is, if you have got the registration, then obligations imposed upon a registered trade union. Some obligations will be imposed. That means if you are a registered trade union, you have to discharge certain duties. Certain duties. And another is, if you are a registered trade union, then you will enjoy certain rights and you have to discharge certain liabilities of registered trade union. That is the coverage of this act. So, under the coverage of the act, the main coverage is the registration procedure, how you can apply for the registration purpose of your trade union. So basically, any 7 persons who are working in an organization can apply for the registration to whom? Before the registrar. You have to apply before the registrar, and the registrar is basically appointed by the appropriate government. An appropriate government can also appoint as many additional and deputy registrar of trade union. And the number of deputy registrars or number of additional registrars will be appointed by the appropriate government in consultation with the registrar. So what I'm trying to say, the appropriate government, it may be the state government or it may be the central government, they can appoint the register. And after that, the register will say that he requires two numbers of additional register, one number of deputy register. Then the appropriate government will appoint them. So the deputy registrar's appointment and the additional register appointments, it will be done by the appropriate government in consultation with the register. Clear? So appointment of register, it is mentioned under section 3. Then we are coming to section 4, mode of registration. Mode of registration. Section 4, mode of registration. I have already told you the mode of registration. Any 7 or more members of a trade union, at least 7, or it might be more than 7. Just to remember my previous example, if in an organization 100 persons are working, so 10% of the 100, that is 10. So 10 people can apply. So 10 people is by default, it is more than 7. That's why here it is written, any 7 or more members of trade union can subscribe to the charter of trade union by application and complying with the provisions of this act. So the mode of registration, any 7 or more persons by complying various provisions of this act, they will apply for the registration. So what are the various provisions are there, that I will discuss later on. At the time of application, what types of provisions you have to comply with, you have to maintain. What types of provisions? Clear? That has been mentioned here. That is applications for registration, section 5. So application for registrations of trade union shall be made to register. I have already told you application should be made to the register in comply with rules and statement of the following particulars. This is very, very important. At the time of applying registrations, you have to submit all these documents. What are the documents? Names, occupation, and address of the members. Suppose in an organization 100 persons are working and 10% of 100, that is 10 people, they are going to apply for registration. Then we have to submit the name of 10 people, the occupations of 10 people, and the address of 10 people. Clear? So this is the first requirement. Name, occupations, and address of the members. The second is name of the trade union. What will be the name of the trade union? That has to be mentioned. Suppose the name of the trade union might be ABC Trade Union, right? Or Dolphin Trade Union, anything. So the name of the trade union and address of its head office, right? This is also very important. Address of its head office, where the head office will be located. The address should be given. So the name of the trade union and the address of its head office. And here it is written name, occupation, and address of the members. So address of the members and address of the head office. And third, titles, names, age, address, occupations of office bearers of trade union. This is also very, very important. In order to run an organization, that means in order to run a trade union, some office bearers are required. Office bearers means some administrative authorities are required. Otherwise, you cannot run the trade union. So someone will act as secretary, someone will act as treasurer, someone will act as president, someone will act as executive, right? So they are called basically the office bearers of trade union. So their title means their occupation, name, age, address, occupations of office bearers of trade unions, where is existence of trade union from past year before making this application, all information you have to provide to the register at the time of applying for registrations of a particular trade union. And another section is there, power to call for further particulars and to require alterations of name. Suppose whatever the name you have suggested here, name of the trade union, this name is suppose already exists, then in that case you have to change the name of your trade union. So that's why here it is written, if trade union is proposed to be registered is identical with that by which any other existing shall refuse to register trade union until such alteration has been made. So whatever the name you have put here, this name is already there. Suppose another union is already there, whatever the name you have given, so the name is identical. In that case, you have to change the name of your trade union. Otherwise, the register will not give you the registration certificate. Right. So now we are coming to section 8. Register on being satisfied that the trade union has complied with all the requirements of this act. That means these are the requirements. And register will verify whether you have given all this information along with the supporting documents. Then the registrar shall register the trade union within a period of 60 from the date of such compliance. From the date, this will not be there, from the date of such compliance. Suppose you have applied on 1st April. So you will get the registration within 30th May. That means within the 60 days from the date of applications. The register will give you the certificate of registration. Certificate of registration in the prescribed form, which shall be conclusive evidence that the trade union has been duly registered under this act. So you must have registration certificate with you so that you can enjoy certain rights, and you have to also perform certain duties under this act. So the remaining portions of this act I will cover in the next class. So thank you very much for being with me. Stay home
Thank you, sir.
and stay safe.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.